Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Ask a Death Doula, the Good Death podcast. Don't forget the fall Doula Givers live semester. I'm so excited about this. Is coming up very soon. We only have semesters twice a year. So if you are someone interested in becoming a Doula Giver Specialist Death Doula, the wait list is below. Make sure to join it and we'll let you know when doors are open. Okay, today on the podcast, we are going to be interviewing Karen Midlo. Karen Midlo is a certified doula giver specialist, and she is now the community educator for Ancora, doing all of their hospice and palliative care, doing all of their education outreach for communities in Boise, Idaho. Doula givers, death doulas are now the bridge to hospice care. They are the educators in their community, and hospices are hiring them. So we're going to interview Karen Midlo, and we're going to hear about her journey of finding her path to doula givers, to finding her life's purpose, and then to working full-time with Ancora Hospice and Palliative Care in Boise, Idaho, and making a difference on all levels. It's an inspiring podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
It is my honor and privilege to be able to spend some time with you and to talk about the thing I love to talk about most, end of life. So
Well,
thank you.
yeah, and thank you for that. And I often will tell in the beginning of talks with people, yes, we're talking about death, we're talking about end of life, but we're talking about life. It's the most life affirming subject there could be because they're not exclusive. Life and death go together.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here. And let's start, if we may. Can you share a little bit about your history and your journey finding your way to this path of purpose? What were you doing before it?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share that with you. It's really nice to be able to relive that. So when I was a young girl at 37, my husband dropped dead. And at the time, it was unexpected. And at the time, I was working in an assisted living community as their sales and marketing person. That community embraced me. They loved me up. They understood what it was like to lose their husband, their spouse. And in that moment, I told the universe I was going to give to seniors the rest of my life. And I worked in the senior living world for 20 plus years. And then COVID came. And after working in a building, as an executive director, it broke me. It broke me to be able to, having to tell families they couldn't come see their loved ones and they had to stay in their rooms. It broke me. And that was what needed to happen. I needed to be broken so that I could find my next path. And so while I took some time, I was introduced and heard about death doulas, took the training to become a death doula, also got certified as a grief educator, and now I'm still able to give back to seniors and their families, my promise that I've made, but it just feels like it's the right next place to be. It's just a gift and an honor to be a part of the end of life journey.
Wow. There's so much that you just shared there, really want people to hear when you say, it broke you and that's what allowed you to open up to your purpose. And many of the times that's what we hear from people. So I just want people to hold on to, if they feel like they're being pushed to the limit, broken, that things are just changing, it means usually that you're being derailed or something is ready to emerge. And I think it's Rumi who says the light is where the crack, where
Yeah.
it's broken, where the light comes in. And so that's beautiful. And how loving that you just followed this really love alignment of working with first of all, your own situation and experience, working with seniors who embraced you and said, I'm going to be on, they're my people, and this is where I'm going to be serving. And then again, there's no accident. So
No,
COVID hit,
absolutely.
really intense for so many of us within medicine and support systems. And yeah, breaking here and there and everywhere. And then where do you come on the other end of that? And then you found your purpose in this work. And so tell me about that. Tell me about what your training was like. Tell me about, how that changed your perspective or opened you up to realize that, wow, this is what I'm meant to do.
No, it was calling. I don't even know how to say that other than people were like, you want to be a what? What is a death doula? What? And just to be able to embrace that, I didn't really know what I was getting into either. But I'm being open to it, for me, the training, especially learning from you because I'm not a nurse, being able to, you broke it down so I could understand it.
Mm.
For me, the training was so valuable because we met weekly. And while we were all on Zoom, there's something magical about Zoom where you still can get connected with people and just go deep. So even though I wasn't with you in person, I felt like I was with you in person. I had my
Mhm.
screen up looking at you. I felt like you were teaching just me. But there was a whole bunch of people in the class. So the support, the materials, and for me, you hit the learning style that I have, which is, being able to do it in person and to watch it and then to go back and read it and do the modules was extremely helpful. And the way that I've used that now as a doula, you also gave us all the materials when we finished. I mean, we had all I needed to do was print it up and get things out there. And that really helped me get going because I will say that I had taken another training from another group and like you said, there's no judgment. It just didn't fit for me. It didn't work with my learning style where doula givers totally worked with my style. And I am so grateful to tell you that I found my dream job. I'm working for a hospice agency, and my title is community educator. I get paid to go out and tell people about end of life and living the best life possible. And it's just such a gift.
It's
So kind of full circle, but being able to use my doula skills and also the other piece I think is really important, and there are no accidents, just like you said. I finished my training, my doula training in July, and in September, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer out of the blue. And I dropped everything, went to Texas to take care of him. I already had those tools in my toolbox that I had just learned from class. And I am regretful to say that I really didn't serve as a daughter. I served as a doula. But that's what needed to be done, right? No judgment either. I can do some reflecting for myself to forgive myself, but that's what happened. And so having
wow.
that training, I also was able to use that in my own personal life. And now I'm so excited. I get to go see a patient today who's going to be starting VSED and work with her family to really help her understand you're not doing anything to your sister. This is her choice. She wants she's not having a quality of life anymore. So I get to do that. I get to take the things that you've taught me and Doula Givers has taught me and The Good Death, the book, and go out there and give it to others. So it's such a gift. So thank you.
Wow. It's beautiful. Let's talk about your dad for a minute. And there are no accidents. I think everything lines up how it's supposed to be for our benefit. And a lot of times that can be very challenging experiences that we have. And so, pancreatic cancer, as you know from the training, can come out of nowhere and a very quick prognosis for it. And you probably had to go right into doula mode because of the quickness and the intensity and knowing what you knew. So having grace for yourself. And I'm so glad that you were there for him and for everyone else attached to his journey. Because we only have one opportunity to do that, right? And people will remember it forever. So that's your personal experience. And I want to highlight that you said you had these tools in your toolbox. This is so important that everyone take this in. That the skill of caring for someone we love at the end of life, first of all, we'll all be called to do that. We're all going to have a caregiver story. We want to make sure that people have a good one to share, a good one to tell. Yes, it was challenging, but here were the moments of magic. And here's what I knew to do that supported it. And I want you to know that as well. Bradley Cooper just came out with PBS with the
Mm,
caregiver. And I was just listening to part of it. And I almost started crying. The way he is describing his father as his hero when he was growing up, and now he's bathing him. And then the last things they were able to do. Um, doesn't matter who you are. You can be an A-list celebrity. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what you look like. We're all going to be in that space. Doula givers, yourself in this work, the calling that we have is to help educate community all over about the support that's there, but also resources for them. And then having somebody, if they so choose, to be with them as that guide on that journey can mean everything. So, love your dad and your family and that experience. And then when you said today that you're, helping a woman with VSED, and I do want to talk about VSED for a minute because I think that there's so much energy around the conversation of medical aid and dying, and I totally understand that. I totally understand that. But it's not a black and white situation. There's more education that's involved here, and education is the key. What do
Right.
you think about that?
About education, it's
About medical aid and dying and education. I know what we're going to get to education in
so
Jen.
I think it's about choice and it's about what does quality of life look like to you. And this patient has advanced stages of Parkinson's. Her life, she doesn't have quality and she fears choking to death and that's how she's going to die. And she doesn't want to die that way. So the beautiful
Yeah,
thing about the hospice agency that I'm working for, we actually have a VSED team who work with her and the family specifically because this is her choice. And
of
we want to
course.
honor her choice. So for me, medical aid and dying, I think it's all about people having a choice. And
Mhm.
and you ask that in the book over and over again. You talk about what is quality of life, what brings
Yes.
you joy. And if you can't do those things anymore,
Yes.
being able to have an option. And I think it's beautiful.
I
And
love that.
it's a big discussion. I actually had a conversation with a friend at dinner last night. He's like, well, that's suicide. Aren't you doing suicide? And being able to explain to him, no, this is not suicide. And he called it medical suicide. And I said, there is no such thing as medical suicide. The
Right.
doctors in the other states for MAID are writing orders, and but the people have to take the medication. The doctor's not doing anything, and it's so important. In my own advanced directives in my post, I wrote a note to my brother saying, you're honoring my wishes. You are not doing
Mhm.
anything to me because his
Mhm.
his beliefs are different than mine. But I
Yeah.
put it in writing for him to remind him, hey, you're not doing anything to me. This is what I want. So I
And
think it's being
explaining
clear.
why you want it, because
Yes.
quality of life is the benchmark and education is the key here. So we have to have the conversation to have the education to kind of talk all about this, which is super important. Just as what you said, somebody using the wrong term for it. But here's what is important for those listeners who don't know what VSED is. It stands for voluntarily stop eating and drinking, and it mimics the natural way that the body stops eating and shutting down. It's something that you can implement if you are advanced in your disease process, have no quality of life, and hospice does support this. So it's choosing. So I'll use myself. I always use myself as an example. If I have no quality of life where I can't enjoy my day, meaning, I can't recognize well, let's not go to that part yet. I can't do anything for myself, speak, have any joy, then, there's no reversing my disease process, then I can choose to stop eating and drinking and have that slow process. It takes about 10 to 14 days usually, and that mimics the natural way that the body shuts down. Now, here's the thing. No law needs to be passed for that. It's legal in every state. Hospice supports that because you do need hospice care and medications can help if needed. And there's also a checklist. There's things that go along with that. But medical aid in dying is another option that people can choose. What I have that I really have to be clear about is that I just want people to make subjective,
Mhm.
informed, and educated decisions for themselves, knowing all the choices and knowing what things mean. Yeah,
Right. And Suzanne, what we have found here in the Idaho area is not all hospices will honor VSED. So it's also an
correct. Yeah.
important thing that when we take intake, we do intake, or when I'm out doing education, that we train people what that's about. Because and they need to ask other hospice agencies when they're
Of course.
interviewing them, if I choose this, will you honor this or will you feel comfortable? Because people have different religious preferences.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And also, I will not take on a VSED patient and family if the family's not on board. So
Right.
they have to make sure that the family, even if they don't agree, it's not something that the person would choose for themselves. They have to support your choice, which means you have to explain clearly what quality of life is to you, why you're choosing this, and ask them for their support because it is an intense journey and everyone's attached to it. End of life, just in general. So, yes, checking with your hospice to make sure that they're on board is very important. It's interesting what you said before because I was thinking this morning about dementia because there's so much about dementia coming in, and it's such a difficult disease for everyone involved. And when I was a young girl, I used to babysit for a man in New York City who was a dentist. And he was a really very strong, smart, independent dentist that, and he ended up getting dementia so badly that he was petrified of everything, including his wife. And when I think about this man at the end, he would have just lost his mind thinking that that's the way he was going to end. There is no way, I'm just going to put it this way. There is no way that he would have wanted to be in this situation for years, which he was, because we can keep people alive. And so when we're thinking about advanced care planning and choices, it's so important for us to know options and know what quality of life means to me. And when it's not there, like in instances with, unfortunately, getting a cognitive disability and not being able to make choices, making sure that you have let your family know what you would want or not want before that. Because when I see this man and what his life had been like for years, and for his wife, she couldn't go anywhere. It's just everything. Um, I don't know that he would have made that choice willingly if he knew that there were maybe some other options for him.
So, Compassion and Choices on their website has the most amazing dementia toolkit to
Okay.
really take people and break down the questions. And it's really, there's 4 different questions for each topic and it's several pages long. So I always, if I have someone that's got a diagnosis of dementia, I point them in that direction to look at their questionnaire because it's spot on in my opinion.
Well, here's what I want to advise, or I want to invite listeners to consider. I think all of us, first, we are trying to get everyone to do their advanced directives and make that plan, right? That's super important. But I think all of us need to put in a dementia rider because we don't know, right?
It's
So we're
free.
hoping, and it's great. But you know what? Plan for it so that it's done, and then we're really covered because, yeah, things can happen. So I love that. Thank you for that tool. I think that's really beautiful.
Well, and one of your buddies, Jennifer O'Brien, was actually I went to a Death Over Tea with Christine Souza. She offers them every month. And so that was last week. And she talked about this amazing idea. And so I stole it and I need to let her know I'm changing it. We're actually starting something called Party with a Purpose. And what with a Purpose is, we're inviting 15 women to come in for a month. And as a group, we are going to do advanced directives. But before we do that, we're going to talk about what is quality of life, what we're going to break it down, and we're going to do it in a 4 month period of time as a group. And at the end, we're going to play the death deck and have a potluck. But we've
Well,
decided to have, because people, what do they say? 1/3 of the population has their advanced directives done. That is staggering and it's frightening.
Well, it is because planning ahead, in my experience, and I have a lot of it, planning ahead led to end of life being better by 80 to 90% with the people that had done it, regardless of what their disease process. One had ALS, regardless of what the disease process at the end was, better by 80, 90%. That's a win across the board. So let's talk about parties with purpose for a minute, because I think this is really fun. I just want to make sure that you have the party in there, right? With the capital P, which I know you will. So there should be definitely, we're going to have music and food, and we're going to get this done. And that's somewhat, it's kind of going off of the premise of the Death Cafe. So
Right.
Bernard Crittaz, when he started that Swiss sociologist, he said, people don't talk about death. I know how we're going to do it. We're going to do it in funky cafes with coffee and cake, and we're going to talk about death. So what he said is, we're nourishing the soul at the same time that we're having this conversation. And that's really beautiful because it really
Mhm.
allows it. So this party with purpose, I think, can be the same thing, but make sure the party, the capital P in the party and the capital P in the purpose are part of it. But it's really wonderful. And the time that we can all talk about this is when we're not facing it. This is the time that I explore and say, and here's the other thing, there's so many hidden gems here. When I think about what quality of life is to me on a daily basis, it makes people think, wait a minute, what is bringing me joy?
Mhm.
And if you're not having joy in your day, not all day long, every day, although I wish that for everybody, um, bring that joy in. And usually we forgot. Sometimes we got out of touch with what we used to enjoy. dancing or painting or studying whatever, or going to the
Right.
beach or playing tennis or riding a bike. I saw this older woman, and like I should be talking so much, but it's okay. But now that life is like going to be 100, riding a bike last night, she had her helmet on. She was like, she must have been in her 80s, and she was very focused, which was very nice because I was like, great, eyes on the road, even though she was on the sidewalk. And I thought, when is the last time I was on a bike? Because it looks really fun. I was on a bike. I went out to visit some friends, so I was on about a year and a half ago, but only short. And so riding a bike and
Every
having
time,
fun,
Suzanne. Yep.
yeah. So it makes us think about the fragility of the journey. And also, I treat each day like one little lifetime. I've broken it down. The minute I started working with those at the end of life, it really taught me I was taking care of people my same age, sometimes younger. I mean, we know that, not everyone gets the gift of a long life, and a lot of times people who leave the planet earlier have had a huge impact. So there's reasons for all of it. We just have to have faith in that. But I realized that, wow, end of life can come at any time, and so how do I want to live each day to make sure I don't miss it, right?
Absolutely. Such a
Mhm.
gift. Each moment is such a gift. And we forget, I take it for granted. And to remind myself that I might not have tomorrow. One of my things I tell people is hope is not a plan. We cannot hope that things are going to, that even that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I can't make those assumptions. So,
It's interesting. I saw that on Cicely Saunders. I saw that on your page, and I just love that. But I also think of Marcus Aurelius, and all of the things that great philosophers and Stoics have said, and it's really, really true. You cannot fully live until you accept that death is a natural part of the journey. Now, I want to say that does not have to be doom and gloom.
sure.
What it has to be brought back as the natural life cycle, the sacredness. And here's the thing that's really incredible is that when we hear from people at the end of life, what they share, what they're experiencing as they get closer, what they're saying as they're going. And again, I've been honored to be with over 1,000 people at the end of life. And what struck me right away is that people were starting to say the same things at the very end. So my understanding, what I believe is happening is that we're holistic beings. We all are. But as that physical body is diminishing, the spiritual body is growing. And there's one point in the journey that they seem to have one foot in this world, one in the next. And they talk about seeing loved ones who've died already. And they have what I call, they get their spiritual eyes. And so if we knew how common this was with all cultures, all religions, the sacredness of the journey, we don't want to rush it.
Right.
But is it something that should be feared the way it is today? And does the removal of the awareness that one day the journey will come to an end prevent me from living my purpose fully now?
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started out today and you said, people say, well, why would you want to be what is a death doula? You could have said, I'm going to be a life doula
Mm-hmm.
because it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have no rub against that, right? But this is the teaching. So I think it's beautiful that we present it because again, when I even explain to doctors that death is not a medical experience, it's a human one, they go, oh, wait, yeah. Like we're trying to preserve it and fix it, and that's the impossible. So, our education, now let's start talking about the education. The education about the work in what we do and the purpose. And that's why one of the reasons that I absolutely adore your passion, but your knowledge and your ability to be such a beautiful teacher. That's what shifts. That's what makes shifts. So, let's talk about education here, what you're doing now, and then we'll talk about what you hope in the future.
Sure. Well, so actually tonight I am going to be at our local library. I've been doing a 12 The Good Death series, and tonight is number 6, and it has been the most beautiful experience. Initially, I wanted, the room to be full and got flyers and things out, but it's been perfect because it's become a very intimate group. There's 6 or 7 people. I go over the slides with them, I sit with them, and we talk and we have conversation. And the transformation and the gifts that I have got just in the last 5 weeks from these people that have come to the class has touched me. And it's like I have to tell you, it's a commitment, it's going after work and getting prepared, getting my slides done, practicing, being ready to go to have the conversation. But I get such a gift out of what when they're learning. I had one woman who came into the very first class, cried the almost the entire class because she was so fearful about talking about death. The entire, I mean, and she didn't want to talk to her parents. Her father is very ill. Class four, she came in and told us that she had a conversation with her father to find out what his wishes were. Last week, Suzanne, she came in and she said, because we had been talking about advanced directives, and in Idaho, you should register them. She told me that she was at her place of work and was talking to a woman and helped her get her advanced directives loaded up. And this is a woman who wouldn't have talked about death 5 weeks ago. And so that's just one little story. It's just one little life that's been changed. And how many others? She works at a senior center. How many other people is she changing their lives? So it's like lighting the light, right? And so for
Yeah.
that, the gift that I get out of teaching the classes is priceless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm not getting financial money for it because my heart is being even more full. And I feel like I am making a difference in this person's life. And you can't put a price on that. There's no double.
Uh, I agree. I'm working with a family right now. I want to say they have about $6.5 million that they're leaving. So putting again the Good Death book has the planner and the financial planner and
Mhm.
all of that. And they're in their 80s. And so the gentleman, he just lived a life that everyone else wanted him to live, which a lot of people do, by the way. So following what his parents wanted him to become and never feeling fulfilled or connected in the way that he always wanted to. And so who cares that you have $6.5 million? First of all, you're leaving it. You can't take it with you.
Right.
But the fact that is bankrupt spiritually his whole life because he didn't listen to his heart and passion is so upsetting. So when you talk about the purpose that this has, and I really want to say to people and to everyone is that when you follow your heart and show up to be of service, and that should be the intention, we're all here to leave the world a better place because we're in it, and we all have gifts that we're here to share
Yeah.
is that when you do that and you just show up in that space, let the universe, God, source, whatever your belief system, take it where it needs to go. Don't you worry about it. You've got 6 people, 8 people, 50 people. That shouldn't matter. What matters is how you show up in that space because hearing your stories and what you're creating there, that one person, it has a ripple effect.
Yep.
So, and that's how we change the world. And so that's beautiful. You also had shared another story. Could you share that other
Oh
story?
my
This
gosh.
one just,
Yes. And actually sent me an email right before we got together, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but her and her husband showed up last week for the first time, and we were talking about, I don't even remember what class it doesn't. Oh, yeah, we were talking about what questions to ask the doctor. So we were going through the questions, and at the very end of the class, she said, and she's got stage 4 breast cancer and has 5 children. And at the very end of her class, she didn't raise, she said, I just need to tell you, if I would have had this list of questions to ask my doctor, my treatment would have been very different. And I used one of your stories, Suzanne, about how, the minute you go get your cancer, it happened to my dad. The minute he got his cancer treatment, they were like, we're going to get you with an oncologist and you're going to start, can't, they get on the medical treadmill starts, right? And that's what she was saying is that she also got put on the medical treadmill and she followed it because she didn't stop. She didn't ask the questions. She didn't even know to ask the questions. She just jumped on board.
and you know what's so interesting about this moment when you're given a serious diagnosis, fear, right?
Mhm.
Fear comes into the room at the same time that fear overcomes. They say, we're going to start on Tuesday on treatment. Like,
Right.
what are you supposed to be doing? Like, you don't know. And again, this comes from not exploring quality of life and the meaning of it beforehand. Because if I know where my benchmark is and I know that the day is going to come that things will change, right? Then I'm like, oh, not ideal. I always say that when something happens like that. Okay, not ideal, but this is the day that something has changed. And I've already thought about this. I've
Mm.
read about, thought about what I'd want. And I turned it into an empowering thing, meaning I thought about where I want to be, how comfortable I want to be, what's important to me. And somebody mentioned the other day with cancer treatments is that ask yourself, is the treatment worse than the disease? Because that's where you need to get all your information. Because what is the point? And I'll use myself as an example. If there is a very slim chance of extending life, but even with that extension, the quality would be nauseous and suffering and pain in my nervous system and all of the things. Am I making the right choice for me to endure that course? Or do I want to say, oh, I'm going to, the 4 to 6 months, I think I'm going to use them and have the highest quality of life, go to Disney World, whatever it is that I want to do, go to the beach, be with my family, all of the things. And that's my choice. So, and that's not what we're discussing. We're not. And again, I think it's a multi-leveled situation. It's not that the doctors are doing anything wrong necessarily. We also have a part in this that we have to discuss this and think about it ourselves and discuss it with our families because a lot of times families will put pressure on loved ones because they're afraid. Mom, you have to keep fighting. You have to keep going. Again, let's talk about this ahead of time and let our families know why we're choosing things and let's get all the information so we can all make an informed decision for ourselves. That story, and I don't need a whole bunch of stories to give me more soul food and fuel, but when you told me that story, I was so moved by that that I said, okay, everyone has to have this information and hear it, which, by the way, this is my goal, right? To reduce fear and empower them. What you're talking about is Doula Givers has a list of questions to ask the doctor when a
Yeah.
serious illness comes about. These are free resources. So that to me, Karen, was so beautiful and powerful and also heartbreaking all at the same time. But it's a cautionary tale that people can use to move forward. Another thing that I just want to share from my journey of education is I remember it was like one of the, if not the first library event that I did with level one. That's how Doula Givers started, teaching the family members how to care for their loved ones. It's the main initiative now, and it will always be. It's in 15 languages now, which is really beautiful. But the first library, I'll never forget the newspaper picked it up and wrote a story on it, but it was a beautiful fall Saturday and they didn't have a seat left in this library. So people were coming in, they were pulling chairs from other rooms. Everyone was shocked. And there was a man there. He must have been in his early 60s or mid 60s. And he said that he was here because his son just got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and he wants to learn everything he can to help him. Now, when he shared that, I mean, obviously your heart just drops and sinks. At the end of that, it was about a 3 hour training. At the end of that training, I have a photo of him. This man is beaming. He is smiling. He is beaming. I feel like he felt not only empowered with what he learned, but also healed from the natural sacred stories of end of life and the whole way that this training for whatever, and thank you, because it's a higher power whatever this training is doing for people, however it was put together in the phases, is so digestible, but also so healing and inspiring at the same time. Because I think it just brings back the natural experience that end of life is and shares so many verbatim bedside stories that you go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I don't have to be afraid. Maybe there's a lot more going on here than most of us are aware of. And that's an incredible thing.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's beautiful, Suzanne, that you offer a free class every month so
Mhm.
that people can go in online and take the class. And it's just a wonderful class. Is that the same class that you were teaching at the library that you do? Yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful class and it's free.
Doula Givers level one. Yep.
Yep.
Family caregiver. And it's, people would often say to me, you need to charge for this. You need to charge for this. This is so good. And I said, the end of life is a human right that everyone has the education to have that support, that I'm not charging for this ever. And we've kept that. And it's just an honor and a blessing because it really is the premise of hospice, right? Hospice nurse is supposed to teach the loved ones which Medicare determined do 98% of the hands-on care is done by family caregivers, even with hospice on board. And there's a whole breakdown in a lot of that understanding because again, people don't talk about end of life, so they don't know what hospice does or doesn't do. And as a hospice nurse, I was there for 1 hour once a week if my patient was stable. I'm supposed to teach this family how to care for their loved one. They're petrified. They come on services late. It doesn't work well. So we have got to get clear on that and hopefully get people the tools for free, by the way, ahead of time that they can care for their loved ones. So that brings us into a great segue about what you've recently been hired to do and how exciting this is. Can you tell me about your new position? Because
I
I am so thrilled.
I absolutely, I just feel so grateful. When I was going through the interview process, one of the people that was interviewing me said, "You know what? You're kind of like a unicorn. You kind of can do it all." So I get to go out and meet with facilities. I like to call them communities, assisted living, skilled nursing facilities, and then out in the community. My title is community educator. So I get to go out and educate people. I get to do exactly what I love to do. And I take you with me when I go out and do those trainings. I always have your book in my bag to share it with people because it is such a great tool. It's like everything you needed to know about having a baby, but now the other side of it. But it's written in a way that non-medical people like myself can understand it. So I get to go out and educate people and tell them about hospice and palliative care. And really, Suzanne, I get to go out and listen and give love and try to dispel or break up some of the fear and do it in a way where I get to go out and do education and really personalize like that I'm doing now with my even my library group. I get to do that. And like you said, it's a ripple effect. So just it's I get to hopefully make a big ripple effect here in Idaho and change the world. And that's what we're all about. So I'm just very, very grateful. I'm yeah,
Love it.
just
So you are doing that through a hospice that you've been hired to, but then you have your own practice as well of being an educator and supplying people with almost every different support system within this beautiful space. You've got pre-planning and you've got the education of the seminar series and all that you do. Karen, you are an example or one of the best examples of what I've always hoped that this would be is that, we come, have this education, and then there are people like you that will step forward and carry it into their states, their communities. And that's the shift and the ripple effect, just like you said. And that's really how we change the world. So, how beautiful is that? Now, how can people follow up and get in touch with you?
oh my goodness. Well, you can absolutely just reach out to me. You can give me a phone call. Happy to get calls. My number's 281-910-3313. That's the best way, I think. Emails, I get so many of them. If somebody needs help, they can just call me directly. And if I can't take the call, I certainly will respond to calls. And what's been so great is that here in Idaho, we have other doula givers. And so there's now four of us here in this area. So I'm able to get clients and then, or find people and then send them over to another doula who I know who's been trained through you, who's going to do a good job so that I can
Amazing.
continue to do my work with Ancora Hospice. So it's really a
Amazing.
blessing.
And with that, there's going to be lots of things happening because Idaho is an amazing place, Boise especially, with education in the community. And so I'll seed a little something that in the fall, I will be joining you in Boise and we'll be doing some events. And also that you have an education platform that I'm going to put the link below. So if people want to go through your link of your education that you do through Doula Givers or however you'd like to do it, free resources, we can share that with them as well because you are just so lovely. And again, you make the world a better place. And for that, I am so grateful.
I am so grateful too. And I wore my favorite sweatshirt on today from Barbara Carnes, which says, "People don't die like they do in the movies." And it's so true. And we just need to be out there educating people so that they can have the best good death possible. And it's all
And
about
they
education.
can. And here's the thing, there have been several that I have been part of that have just been the most beautiful experience that families are in awe. Because if you think about bringing a baby into this world, we're helping somebody leave this world. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's super hard. I understand that. But it's just as important and sacred if you have the right education and support and can be grounded in that moment. And we don't die like we do in the movies, but end of life is a natural, sacred experience and can go really, really well with the right education and support that myself, that Karen, and many other beautiful people are providing. So thank you so much, Karen, for being on this
You.
episode.
And thank you, Suzanne, for being the gift to the world that you are. You and your entire team are amazing, just, doing amazing work. And I'm so grateful that I found you. So grateful.
Right back to you. And thank you so very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everyone. Thank you again for this episode of the Good Death Podcast. We'll see you in the next one. There you go, everyone. Becoming a doula giver, if it is your calling, and it is a calling, as you can hear from Karen's story, it chooses you. And what an honor that is. The best thing you could ever do is say yes to that. You're saying yes to your gift, to your purpose, and you're leaving this world a better place because you're aligning with what you're supposed to be doing. So, again, if this is your calling, join the wait list below. The Doula Givers Live Fall Semester is starting so soon. You do not want to miss it. I want to thank you so much for being part of this podcast and part of this global community. Together, this is how we change the world. We'll see you in the next episode.